Welcome back. In life, especially when it comes to having a family and raising children, I think the best approach is an approach that employs balance. You have both masculinity and femininity that are present in the home, and those two mixed together give the children a balanced view of the world and how to handle difficulties when they may arise. But what about the situation when uh, children are exposed to only a single parent, more specifically, a single mother? What are the results? And if there are some negative connotations to this particular situation, what can be done? Well, that's what the video that we're about to look at, uh, it shows us the effects of single motherhood on children. Let's get into it and let's see what's going on.
Jordan and Caton are Tara's sons. Jordan, how do you feel when your mom tries to teach you about being a man? Tell her.
To be completely honest, she can't. Because she is a woman.
Yeah.
She can teach me what I've got in my 21 years here. She can teach me how to love.
Yeah.
But only my father can teach me how to be a father. Only my father can teach me how to be a husband. She can't do that. And actually listening and taking in everything that I just heard,
Yeah.
I've come to the revelation that I spent my whole life trying to not be my father.
Yeah.
And I actually would like to look to you two for advice, and you as well, because I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing, but I spent my whole life trying to not be somebody instead of trying to be somebody.
Wow.
Now that I can't be that person, I don't know who to
Who
be.
you are. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's fantastic.
So now, did you hear what the young man just described? Now, I don't know what you heard, but I heard confusion. He's confused about really his own masculinity. Think about what he said for just a moment. He said that his whole life he's been trying not to be someone as opposed to looking at the positive of trying to build himself into someone. He's trying to avoid certain things. But then I think the first statement that he made was rather poignant. He said that his mother couldn't teach him how to be a man. She couldn't teach him how to be a father and a husband. She had given him everything that she knew to give him. She had provided him with the love that he needed, and that's how he could identify what love was based upon the example that his mother set. But as far as his masculinity, he is totally confused. But it's understandable, isn't it? Let's keep going.
Beautiful. Mom, take your hands off of it. Let's
That
acknowledge
was a
how powerful
revelation.
that is.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge how powerful that is.
Just came. Well, two things. First, can I talk to Mom for a moment? Because she made the classic mother mistake, which is focusing on what you don't want. I don't want the streets to get him. I don't want the drugs to get him. I don't want him to do this. But did you ever affirm to him what you did want for him? I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to feel strong. You may have said it, but mother, you put the don't wants into the energy. And that's the thing that we don't understand as mothers, that what you say and how you hold it. This young man, my son, taught me something very powerful when he was sitting inside the prison. When he said to me, you always told me what I shouldn't do. You never told me what I could do. He said, you always told me what to think, so that when I thought on my own, you made me wrong for it. He said that to me, and I said, well, how can I do better now? And he said, listen and be my friend. I was so afraid he was gonna fail till I forgot to affirm his success. I forgot.
That's also a powerful point there also. I think sometimes as parents, and I know I'm guilty of this also, we allow the worst case scenario to be what we judge off of. We're encouraging our children not to get involved with drugs. We're encouraging our children not to get involved in bad association. We're encouraging our children not to allow themselves to be influenced for the negative, but at the same time, are we pushing positivity? Are we affirming that it's good to be studious, to have good grades? Are we affirming that it's good to be respectful in our interactions with everyone, but especially those who are elders? Are we affirming that being honest about the things that we do will get us a long way in life? Are we affirming those things? Are we actively pushing those things in our children's direction so that not only do they know what not to do, but they're fully convinced in their minds of what they need to do also? That was a powerful point. Let's keep going.
So,
Wow. That's so
beloved,
good.
you, don't try not to be like your father.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to be who you are, to make mistakes, to grow from those mistakes, and find you a man that you can watch. Find a man.
Growing up, that's what I've always done.
Yeah.
I've always had like one or two teachers that I always just looked up to, whether it was in middle school or high school, because I never had that. I never had a person, a man in the house to look up to. So I personally, I think it worked out for me because the people I were looking up to were always good role models.
Yeah.
So that within itself, I believe, helped me become the man who I am today.
So what I want you to do is turn to your mom and tell her 3 things that you really appreciate about what she's given you as a mom. Tell her 3 things I really appreciate.
The first and foremost, just the love. Always being there for me. I'll count that as one by itself. My little brother right here. That's the second thing right here. This is my boy right here. Third thing is, I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but the fact that we're all here, we're all breathing. The fact that she nurtured me, like you guys said.
Tell her that you nurtured me.
You nurtured me. You brought me into this world. I'm still here. I'm living. I'm breathing. I'm not in the streets. I'm not into drugs. I'm doing this. And that's all you.
So now, as we mentioned, we are looking at some of the results. We just had a fine video segment showing some of the emotional results, the toll that it takes on not only the single mother, but also upon the children, and in this case, the male children. But now, what about in general? What are some statistics that we can look at? Well, what we have here, we have some of the statistics that are shown on the screen here. As far as poverty is concerned, an individual is at 4 times greater risk of poverty because of being a part or a result of a single parent household. They're more likely to have behavioral problems, and we can see that because a lot of our young men are emotionally driven, whereas if they had been exposed to a father in the home, it would be more likely that they would be driven by logic and reason as opposed to just simply emotion. And then there's a 2 times greater risk of infant mortality when it comes to mother and child health. An individual is more likely to go to prison, to be incarcerated. They're more likely to commit a crime because of being a part of a single parent household. And now notice this one, they're 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teenager. Then they're more likely to face abuse and neglect. They're more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. They're 2 times more likely to suffer obesity as a child. Because a lot of children, because of the absence of their father, then they use food as a coping mechanism. And then lastly, they're 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. So now in all of those statistics that we just looked at, each and every one of those statistics can be something that can causing individuals to have major difficulties later on in life. Let's take, for instance, the one about crime. A person that comes from a single parent home is more likely to commit crime. So how is that possible? Well, one thing about it is if this is a single mother, then the structure, the discipline, the logic that a husband or a father would provide is missing from the home. And so these individuals go into the world, and the structure and the logic that's required of them is something that they have difficulty with. And so because they have a lack of structure in their upbringing, then they don't respond well to structure in the outside world. And when we mean structure, we're talking about laws and things that govern the way we interact as a society. They don't respond well to these because they're not used to being structured, prohibited from doing certain things. And so, as we mentioned, that could cause them to become a criminal because of their lack of structure, not understanding how things work in the outside world. So these things that we've just gone over are some of the results of a single parent home. And it's true on both ends. We'll get into that just a little bit later in the closing remarks, but it's true on both ends. It's true of a single mother trying to raise children. It's true of a single father trying to raise children. The balance is just not there. And so it causes an imbalance in the way that that particular child sees the world, and an imbalance in the way they approach the world in general. So now let's get into the closing remarks. Well, now that one was full of emotion, wouldn't you say? The emotions of the son toward his mom and the emotions of the mom toward her son. And this is something that in our particular community we see a lot of. We see a lot of single mothers raising children on their own. Now, there's, as we like to talk about, a lot of reasons why these particular ladies end up being single mothers. That's not the point of this particular segment that we're doing. The point of this segment is to see what is the result of having a single mother raise boys. Now, one thing I will highlight from this particular segment is that it's noteworthy that from the beginning, the oldest of the two sons recognized that his mother was not able to teach him certain things. Yes, she was able to teach him love and how to nurture and how to support, but she was not able to teach him some of the fundamental things that are required as far as manhood is concerned. She couldn't teach him how to be a man. She couldn't teach him how to be a father. She couldn't teach him how to be a husband. And a lot of those things are taught by example. But in order to see an example, the individual who's supposed to embody what you need has to be present. And if they're not present, then you are left in life to go off what you've seen. And so what he's seeing the majority of the time is his mother putting forth extraordinary effort to make sure that the household is intact and that it's moving forward. So now, after he made that particular statement, after he came to that realization, it's noteworthy that the mother's response, she was very upset. But I will say this in regards to her. Because of the fact that that young man and his brother are standing beside their mother, and the amount of respect, the amount of composure that the two of them had is proof that she did a good job. No parent is perfect. Even in a two-parent household, those two parents aren't perfect. But it's proof that she did the best that she possibly could. And furthermore, if you find yourself in this same situation, then by all means do the best that you can. But now I would like to add just one thing to that particular scenario. If you notice, the young man said that throughout life, and even Miss Van Zandt, she encouraged this: find a man to look at. right? And so he said throughout life, he was able to look at certain teachers and use them as role models, the way that they comported themselves, the way that they presented themselves to the world. He was able to look at them, examine the qualities that they had, and identify which of those qualities would help him to succeed as a man. He was developing his manhood, even though he didn't know it. He was developing his manhood based off of what he saw. Here are the examples that you can employ if you find yourself in the same situation. If you're a single mother, it's necessary to find an example of what a man should be or what you would want your son to grow into and put that example in front of the child. Do you know what that does? It's called positive reinforcement. You may say a thing, you may make a statement, but to actually see someone that looks like him, that have had the same difficulties that he's going through now, and they were able to surmount those difficulties, to see that will reinforce the positive message that you've been teaching him all along. He has to see it. He has to see it in action. Because for men, we're logical creatures. And if we can see things and how they turn out, if we can see the progression, and then the result is good, then that locks into our mind as a way that we should go. It's pertinent. It's absolutely pertinent that an individual sees that, because what you're doing now is you're allowing him to develop in his own mind what kind of man he will become, what kind of standard he will hold himself to, what kind of discipline he will employ in order to make his life into a success. And those things are absolutely necessary for manhood. And so I think that overall, the particular segment was very beneficial. If you find yourself in a situation where you're having to do everything, having to play both roles as a single mother, don't give up, keep going. But at the same time, make sure that you're putting positive masculine examples in front of your sons so that they will know their role in society and they will know what's expected of them. Now, we talked about single mothers raising boys into men. But I think also the converse is the case. If there's a single father, then he would want to do the same thing in regards to raising his daughter. If the wife is not there, not present, then he would want to employ finding examples of true femininity and putting those examples in front of his daughter so that she can develop the qualities that would help her to be productive in her life as well. So it's not just a case that there's an imbalance with single mothers. There would also be that same imbalance with single fathers. But the key is making sure that whatever gender your child is, they have a balanced view of the world. They get that balanced view from having both a masculine and a feminine example to look up to. Yes, this was a wonderful video. I appreciated the love that I saw between the mother and the son. It was undeniable. And the respect. He had so much respect for his mother because he understood what she was trying to do, even though in certain cases she didn't have all the answers. She was still there to support him, and he appreciated that. And in that particular segment, he showed it. Well, those have been my thoughts. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Be easy.